Hello guys, welcome back to Java session. In this particular video, we are going to cover stack and vector, which are left out classes in the list interface. In the last session, we covered the classes which are implementing the list interface, that is array list and linked list. In this particular session, we are going to cover the stack and followed by vector. Then we will go with the set interface. That is the agenda for this particular video, right? So as we've seen, this is a list interface, which is implementing the collection interface, right? Under list interface, we have the array list, linked list, stack, and vector. We covered this array list and linked list. Now, in this particular session, we are going to cover this stack and vector, right? Now, we will go one by one. So, what is this vector? Why we are going to use this vector? Vector, it also internally, it uses the dynamic array. This vector, it also internally it uses the dynamic array. Dynamic array means which can grow automatically and which can shrink automatically. By using this dynamic array, we can store the data elements, right? It is similar to array list, but there is a slight different. There is a small difference, that is in array list, the array list is non-synchronized as we discussed in the last session, right? Whereas this vector, it is a synchronized, right? Sir, what do you mean by synchronization? What is mean by non-synchronization means? In synchronization, when the vector is synchronized means on each operation, it will apply the lock. Let's say this is your vector. On this vector, you are accessing a particular element. Whenever you are performing this operation, it will apply the lock on that particular operation, right? So that at same point of time, if other operation, if you are trying to perform, let's say, sir, I am accessing this particular element at same point of time, what I am trying to do, I am trying to modify that particular exception. So then what will happen? Automatically, concurrent modification exception will be raised, right? This is how the vector will apply the lock on each operation of the vector, right? This is only the difference between the array list as well as in the vector, right? And there are the methods which are there in the vector. They are not available in the collection hierarchy. I will show you. We will discuss those methods. Yeah, guys. As we know, this entire collection framework that is available under the util package. Before using this vector, first you should import this util package, right? You can create vector in different ways. So directly I'm creating the vector without any size. The default size is 10, right? Sir, can I specify the size? Of course, you can create a vector with by specifying the size also. If you want to know the size of the vector, you can use the size method, which will give you the size of that particular vector. If you want to add an element, you can use the add method. You can add a element as well as you can add an object to the vector, right? Sir, I want to add a particular object in a particular position. Same by using add method, you can do that. If you want to remove, you can use the remove method. Whatever the position you are passing in that particular position, element will be removed from the vector. Clear, which is used to remove all the elements from the vector. Vector become empty, right? You can use the get method to retrieve element by element, right? Let's say, sir, I want to get the second position element, right? V dot get of 2. V is the object of vector, right? So if you want to know the capacity of the vector, you can use the capacity method, right? Capacity is different from the size. Size means actually how many you are stored. Capacity means how many it can accommodate. Let's say, sir, I am taken 100. That in the sense it's a capacity, but I stored 50. That is the size. That is the difference between the capacity and size. Now, this comes under the list. List means this is implementing the list interface. It means that list will allow the duplicate values. Obviously, this vector will also allow the duplicate values. Let's say, sir, I have the vector like this, right? 7, 9, 12, 14, 9, 6, 8, 5, 9. If you see here, the 9 is repeated thrice. Sir, I want to know the first occurrence of the 9. If you want to know the first occurrence of the 9, then you should call the index of method. This is the method which returns the first occurrence of a particular object. Sir, I want to find the last occurrence. Then you should use the last index of. This is the method which is used to return the last occurrence of the particular element in the vector. So these are all the different methods which are existed in the vector. Now we will see the example program for the vector, right? Yeah, guys, this is a simple example program using the vector. So what I am trying to do, first I want to create a vector, right? In this vector, I want to read the elements from an array. Let's say I'm creating some X array. In this X array, I have certain elements. I want to read those elements from the array. I want to store it in the vector. From vector, I want to display the elements, right? Then I want to modify the elements. Let's say I want to change the element. I want to remove the element. I want to add the element, right? I want to find the first occurrence of the duplicate element and last occurrence of the duplicate element. These are all the operations I'm going to perform by using the methods of the vector, right? So here I'm creating the vector with the default size that is 10. So the vector with size 10 is going to be created. Then I'm created an array, right? If you see here, this is the array which contains the duplicate values as well. And the number of elements in the array are more than 10. Now, what I am trying to do, I am trying to read the elements from X array to the vector. For the purpose, I am using a for loop. You can see here, I am writing the condition for the for loop. I am finding the length of array. So I will read the elements until we reach that length, right? Whatever the element which I am reading from the array, x of I is 0, let's say x of 0 is, that is 10. I read it 10. That 10, what I'm doing, I'm converting it into integer and I'm adding that element to the vector. That is what I'm doing. V dot add is a method which is used to add the element, and that element is converted into integer by using its wrapper class and converted as an object, and that will be added to the vector x of I. This is 10 that is converted into integer and it will be added to the vector by using its add method. This is how what I am going to do. I am going to add all the elements to the vector from the array by using this simple for loop, right? Then, sir, I want to display the elements from the vector. So here, now we have the elements in the vector. I'm finding the size of the vector. Then I'm getting element by element from the vector. V dot get of I. So I value is 0, get of 0, right? Its zeroth element of the vector will be displayed. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how I am going to get all the elements from the vector. Now, sir, do we have any other way? Better, we have other way. Already we discussed like iterator, list iterator, and numerator in the last session. That is, if you want to retrieve the elements from the collection framework, you can use these interfaces, right? So in the last session, we covered this iterator interface. Now I'm going to cover the list iterator, right? So we discussed the difference between the iterator and list iterator. Iterator, which will display the elements only in the forward direction, and whereas the list iterator, it will display the elements in the forward direction as well as in the backward direction. That is the difference between the iterator and list iterator. Here you have the hash next as well as next method. You have the two methods to get the elements in the forward direction. Whereas when it comes to the list iterator, for forward direction, we use the same methods, that is hash next and next. When it comes to the backward direction, we use hash previous as well as previous. These are the two methods which we use to retrieve the elements from the backward direction. So here I'm showing you how to retrieve the elements in the forward direction as well as in the backward direction. You can see I'm creating a reference variable for the list iterator. So v dot, I'm applying the list iterator on the vector. I will get all the elements and that will be stored in the list iterator reference variable. Now I want to display it in the forward direction. For that, we use the hash next method, which is used to find whether we have an element in this particular object or not. If we have the element, or if you have an element in the uh, object, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So while of true, then I will display the element. For that purpose, I am using the next method, right? So by using hash next and next, I'm going to display the elements in the forward direction. Sir, if I want to display them in the backward direction, what I'm doing, I'm applying hash previous. So then what it will do, it will get from the last to first, right? If you have the last element, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. Then to display that element, I'm using the previous method. This is how I'm going to display the elements in the forward direction as well as backward direction by using this list iterator, right? This is the difference between the iterator and list iterator. Now, sir, I want to know the capacity, how many elements it can accommodate. I'm displaying the capacity. Sir, I want to know the last index of this duplicate element and first index of the duplicate element. I'm displaying, right? Sir, I want to remove the third position element. Just I'm calling the remove method. Sir, after removing, I want to display the vector. So what I'm doing, I'm using the remove method and I'm displaying the vector by using this object of the vector, right? This is how we implement the vector which is there in the collection interface. This is all about the vector method.